Are you buying or selling a home? Having a realtor can make buying or selling real estate much easier. HomeGain can recommend and connect you with a top real estate agent in your area. Call 866-512-7918 or visit HomeGain.com. Did you know, according to a HomeGain nationwide survey, that having a realtor working for you improves your chances by 50% of getting your home sold? HomeGain can recommend and connect you with the top real estate agent in your area. Call 866-512-7918 or visit HomeGain.com. Are you or someone you know looking to buy or sell a home? When you use a HomeGain Realtor to buy or sell a home, you can get $150. Visit HomeGain.com and click on the Promo 150 banner at the top of the page to get started. Compare HomeGain Realtors and choose your favorite. Complete your home purchase or sale transaction with a HomeGain Realtor, and HomeGain will pay you $150. Get started today by going to HomeGain.com.
You're listening to Real Estate Radio Washington, D.C. Metro with local expert Ryan Sloper. Now, here's Ryan.
Welcome back, Washington, D.C. Metro, to Real Estate Radio. I am your host, Ryan Sloper. Quick reminder before we get back, Real Estate Radio is designed to build the Washington, D.C. Metro's market by giving you good free advice. If you ever have any questions, concerns, credit-related, real estate-related, financially related, feel free to reach out to us at 877-245-2030. That's 877-245-2030. So it's time to jump into real-time real estate. And this is kind of a segment that we kind of give you, the listener, a bird's eye view of some real-time situations from clients of mine that we're helping, and we're helping people daily. I've had these clients that I've been working with for the past couple months. And it's interesting because when they originally came to me, they, were unsure. They thought they were going to have to continue to rent for the next 2 or 3 years. Their credit scores were down around 590. And for most of you out there, when you're trying to figure out, what credit score do you require to obtain a loan? Well, typically speaking, an FHA loan, a lot of the time, for some of the investors that we have on right now, they've dropped the credit score minimum down to a 620 or 640. 640 is kind of the rule of thumb there. It's a hard and fast rule of thumb, it's 640. So we were trying to figure out if they could get them to qualify in the next, 2 to 3 weeks to a month to be able to let them buy a house versus having to renew their lease. So I looked at the credit report, went over it, found a couple items on there that I figured that could help them. And a couple of the things were paying down credit cards down to a more realistic balance. Now, when I say that, their high credit limit, let's just call it $1,000. I always tell people to try to keep your balance to your high credit limit of around 30%. So a couple of credit cards they had were, above that, and I was trying, I told them I think that we can really make a jump in your credit scores by just paying these items down to 30% of the high credit limit. So I believe there was about 3 cards that we did that for, and we did what's called a rapid rescore. So literally we send in the new statements that show the new balance, send that in, and we get a rapid rescore where it'll adjust those balances and then rescore the borrower. So by doing that, we actually got our credit score from a 540 up to a 650 in literally 3 weeks. Now, for those of you out there that don't think that's significant, I mean, this was the difference between renting and buying a home. And take that a step further, they were actually going to be buying a home and having their payment at about $1,900 versus renting that same home, if not a different one in that area, for about $2,400-$2,500. So you're talking about a $500 or $600 difference in monthly outlay for a mortgage. So huge. And these were people just like you out there that are were saying there's no way in the world that I can qualify for a mortgage. And the process with these particular clients was that they just reached out to a professional that could look at their situation, look at their credit, analyze it, and let them know what they needed to do. Had they just taken the course of there's no way we're going to buy a house, it's going to be 2 or 3 years out for us, then that's probably what would have happened. But since they were proactive and they called me, we sat down, we formulated a game plan and implemented that game plan, they are going to be buying a house in the next 3 weeks. They're going to be closing in the next 3 weeks, which is just amazing. I mean, we just basically transformed their lives, allowing them to move into their dream home, which they didn't think they were going to ever own a home for at least the next 2 to 5 years. So it was huge. So for those of you out there that are having credit problems right now or just unsure about what to do and how to get a game plan to move forward to buy a house, reach out to me at 877-245-2030. That's 877-245-2030. And remember, there's no situation that, I'm scared to tackle here. I mean, you have to start somewhere, and I think that, the fear of rejection or being denied for a loan is what stops or hinders people from making that first phone call to find out what they can or can't do. We work with millions of different homeowners out there with different situations, different incomes, different debt loads, but there's not one that's, we can't work with. I mean, we're going to work with you, whether it takes, 1 day, 2 weeks, 2 years, 5 years. We're going to continue to work with you until we can get you on to the road to success or the road to home ownership. That is our biggest goal here. 877-245-2030. That's 877-245-2030. I've actually had a couple of interesting questions from people that, went through bankruptcy about a year and a half ago or a year ago. And we're trying to figure out, what their timetable from being able to purchase another home is. Really, the rule is it's about, for an FHA loan, which is basically the smallest down payment, which requires a 3.5% down payment. If you've had a bankruptcy, it's going to be 2 years from the discharge date of that bankruptcy that you're able to purchase a new home. Now, that's when you become eligible. That doesn't mean that you're going to be able to buy just because that 2 years has elapsed. You have to have taken the proper steps to ensure that you will be qualified, which is, generating new credit, establishing new credit after the bankruptcy that you've been on time with, made payments for at least a history of a 1 year time frame. So a lot of people make the mistake. They go through the bankruptcy, get everything wiped out, and then they never rebuild, or they don't start new credit so that they can start having, that credit, rotate positively on that report. So instead of it being 2 years, it turns into 4 years. When you sit down with me, what I'm going to do is put together a plan. This could be the same time that you're actually going through the bankruptcy to make sure that, you're going out, that you're going to take out a secured credit card with a bank. And, there's a lot of banks out there that will say they're not going to do that. Well, we can find you one. There's tons of them online that we can find. Somebody will give it to you. And you don't have to use this credit card to go out and make every purchase that you have for gas and food. All we want you to do is get a small credit limit. It could be $200 or $300 that you pay up front, and maybe just put $10 or $20 on there. That's one thing we can do. And we open maybe two of those. And we let that, every month you guys can leave a small balance, maybe $5 on there, and just pay off the rest. Let that continually revolve for the next year. You'd be surprised at how quick your credit scores actually come back after a bankruptcy. Most people think, well, the bankruptcy, that's going to, take me way down into the 500s and I'm never coming back. That's just not the case. And more times than not, people that have gone through the bankruptcy and come out on the other side have much higher credit scores than people that are actually paying their bills on time. I know that sounds crazy. How in the world can your credit scores be lower if you're paying your bills on time, never been late, versus somebody that's had a bankruptcy and, gotten all their debts wiped out, but it was through, something, a financial tool that's in place by the government that they allow you to do that? Well, the reason is that the credit bureaus put such an emphasis on what's your proportions of balances to high credit limits. That's almost 30% of your score. So if people have a lot of debt, then that's going to drag your scores way down. So believe it or not, the bankruptcy it's a very good route for some people. Now, it's not for everybody. And, some people are out there and they're like, well, I just have my house and I'm upside down in my house. We can't make our house payments, but we really don't have any other debt. Then the bankruptcy is probably not for you on that one. And maybe it's a short sale or a loan modification. If you can qualify, those don't tend to work out very well. But the best advice I can give you is to reach out to somebody that can lead you in the right direction. I can do that. It's 877-245-2030. That's 877-245-2030. I want to jump into another question from a listener that I had last week from Alex and Diane. Is it too late to refinance? Guys, it's never too late to refinance. And what it is that, just because you think that you want to refinance doesn't mean that it's going to make financial sense for you. So what we're seeing in a lot of people that have been calling in over the last couple of weeks as far as refinance is rates have ticked down. They've ticked down about another, I'd say 8.25% over the last couple of weeks. And, if you're at a 6% rate, or let's just call it, if you're over 5.5% or higher right now, definitely call in to see what your options are, especially if you are only planning on living in your house for, let's say, the next 5 years, and you're putting, that hard number, 5 years or fewer, you're going to live in that home. You can potentially qualify to get into an adjustable rate mortgage, a 5-year fixed period at close to 4%. Now, that's just an average. Remember that anytime that you're searching for a loan and trying to shop, look at the APR, which is the annual percentage rate. It's the best way to, shop one lender against the other. And remember that all rates are subject to certain qualifications. Everybody's going to be different. It's credit scores, loan to value down the line. So make sure that you do check those things out. But I would say that it is definitely worth looking into with 5-year ARM rates down around 4%, and even 30-year fixed mortgage rates around 4.5 to 4.875%, depending upon your qualification. It definitely makes sense to do. That's 877-245-2030. That's 877-245-2030. Next one was Jonathan and Mary. Where's the best place to look online to find a low mortgage rate? My best advice is don't look online. You want to be working with a professional and not numbers that are thrown on a computer or an advertisement that are just put on there to get you to call in. That's not the goal. You want to work with somebody that's professional, that understands the market. Market's changing 3 to 4 to 5 times daily sometimes, and you need to be working with somebody that understands what the economic indicators are for that day and that week that are going to cause rates to shift up and down. It's great to work with somebody that can tell you with what rates are going to do that day, but it's even better to work with somebody that can tell you where they think rates are going to go tomorrow and for the next week and month. That's who you want to work with. 877-245-2030. You're listening to Real Estate Radio. Be right back.